Asterisk she was publicly questioned, embarrassed, and silently judged in a luxury store. No cameras. No warning. Just humiliation in front of strangers. Ana de Armas didn't cry. She didn't argue. But then a man stepped out of the shadows. One calm sentence, the store went dead silent. And Tom Cruise did something nitrogen monoxide one expected. Asterisk. Nobody expected this moment to unfold in such a quiet place. It wasn't a red carpet filled with flashing cameras or shouting reporters. It wasn't a glamorous movie premiere surrounded by fans and security. It wasn't even a crowded Hollywood event where tension and drama are expected. It was something far more ordinary. High-end store on a calm afternoon. The kind of place where time seems to slow down, where people browse quietly, and where celebrities usually blend in without being noticed. A place meant to offer privacy, comfort, and respect. Ana de Armas walked in casually, hoping for exactly that. She was dressed simply, without designer labels screaming for attention. No heavy makeup. No bodyguards trailing behind her. No entourage demanding special treatment. Just a woman stepping away from her public image, wanting to feel normal, even if only for a little while. For Ana, moments like these are rare. Fame follows her everywhere. Cameras wait around corners. Headlines are written before she even speaks. And yet, on this day, she believed she could enjoy something most people take for granted: peace. There were no cameras pointed at her. No assistants checking schedules. No spotlight demanding perfection. Just silence, soft lighting, and the quiet hope of anonymity. At first, everything felt fine. She moved through the store slowly, taking her time, touching fabrics, reading labels, relaxed, unguarded. For once, she wasn't an actress performing for the world. She was simply herself. But then, the atmosphere began to change. Subtle at first. A lingering stare. A pause that lasted a little too long. A shift in tone that made the air feel heavier. Ana sensed it before she could explain it. That uncomfortable feeling when something isn't right, but you can't yet see why. And then it happened. A simple interaction turned cold. A question became a judgment. The warmth of the space disappeared in an instant, replaced by quiet scrutiny. People nearby noticed. Conversations stopped. Eyes turned. Ana felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. She stood there, caught between shock and disbelief. Not because she didn't know who she was, but because humiliation, when it comes unexpectedly, leaves no time to prepare. In that instant, she wasn't a star admired by millions. She wasn't a face on movie posters. She was a woman being made to feel small in a public place. Her expression changed. The confidence in her posture softened. And for a brief moment, she considered simply walking away, letting the moment pass in silence. But unseen by most, someone had been watching. Someone who recognized the shift. Someone who understood what was happening without needing an explanation. Someone who chose not to look away. What followed would transform an embarrassing moment into a powerful reminder of dignity, support, and quiet strength, and would reveal a side of Tom Cruise that very few people ever get to witness. A moment that began with discomfort and ended with grace. At first, everything seemed normal. Ana moved through the store calmly, her steps unhurried, her attention focused on the shelves in front of her. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't drawing attention to herself. She simply browsed, taking in the colors, the textures, the quiet luxury of the space. For a moment, it felt peaceful, but slowly, something began to feel off. Ana sensed it before she could fully understand it. That subtle pressure you feel when eyes lingered just a second too long. A store employee stood nearby, watching her closely. Not with polite curiosity, not with professional attentiveness, but with suspicion. Ana tried to ignore it. She continued browsing, hoping the feeling would pass. But the glances didn't stop. They followed her from one section to another, growing heavier, more obvious. The comfort she had felt moments earlier began to fade. Eventually, Ana asked a simple question about one of the items. The response she received was cold. The employee's tone was flat, short, almost dismissive. There was no warmth, no courtesy, just a sharpness that immediately caught Ana off guard. It wasn't what was said, but how it was said that made her pause. And then came the moment that changed everything. Without lowering their voice, the employee questioned whether Ana could actually afford what she was holding. The words were clear, loud enough for others nearby to hear. Time seemed to stop. The soft music in the store suddenly felt too loud. Conversations around her faded. The atmosphere shifted instantly, like the air had been pulled out of the room. The store fell silent. People slowly turned their heads. Curious glances became fixed stares. Whispers began to ripple through the space. Quiet, uncomfortable, undeniable. Ana froze. For a split second, she didn't know how to respond. Not because she lacked confidence. Not because she doubted herself. But because humiliation hits differently when it comes without warning. One moment, you're relaxed. The next, you're exposed. Here stood an Oscar-nominated actress, A woman admired by millions around the world. Someone whose work is celebrated on the biggest stages in cinema. And yet, in this moment, none of that mattered. She wasn't being seen as an artist. She wasn't being seen as a professional. She was being reduced, judged, made to feel small in a public space. Ana felt her face grow warm. Her heart sank just enough to hurt. Her smile faded. The confidence in her voice softened as she replied politely, choosing calm over confrontation. With slow, deliberate movement, she placed the item back on the shelf, not because she had to, but because she wanted the moment to end. It was a quiet retreat, a dignified one, but still, it hurt. She lowered her gaze, preparing to step away, hoping to disappear from the attention that had suddenly found her. And that was when it happened. From just a few steps away, someone moved, a presence shifted. Footsteps approached, a calm figure stepped forward, someone who had seen everything, someone who understood exactly what that moment meant. And in the silence that followed, the atmosphere was about to change completely. Tom Cruise had been nearby the entire time. He wasn't drawing attention to himself. He wasn't surrounded by security or making his presence known. In fact, most people in the store didn't even realize he was there. That was intentional. Tom had chosen to stay in the background, giving Ana her space, allowing her to enjoy a rare moment of normalcy away from flashing cameras and constant recognition. But the moment he sensed something was wrong, everything changed. He noticed it instantly, the shift in Ana's posture, the way her voice softened, the uncomfortable silence spreading through the room. Tom didn't need an explanation. He didn't need to hear every word. He understood exactly what was happening, and he decided not to look away. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't rush in angrily. He didn't create a scene that would draw attention. Instead, he did something far more powerful. Tom walked calmly toward Ana and stopped beside her. He didn't touch her arm or speak right away. He simply stood with her. That quiet gesture alone sent a message. She was not alone. The room seemed to hold its breath. Then Tom spoke. His voice was low, controlled, and steady. Not aggressive, not emotional, but firm enough that everyone nearby could feel the weight of his words. It was the kind of tone that doesn't demand attention. It commands it. He asked the employee one clear, simple question. Why was Ana being treated differently? There were no accusations. No insults. No threats. Just a question that cut straight to the truth. The silence that followed was heavy. No one moved. No one spoke. People who had been watching suddenly felt uncomfortable, not because of drama, but because clarity had entered the room. Everyone understood what Tom was saying without him needing to explain further. This wasn't about an item. This wasn't about money. This was about respect. Tom made his position unmistakably clear. Disrespect would not be tolerated. Judgment would not go unanswered. And Ana would not stand alone in that moment. There was no anger in his expression. His face remained calm, his posture relaxed but unshakable. He didn't need to threaten or embarrass anyone to assert authority. His presence alone carried weight. The balance of power shifted instantly. Where there had been tension, there was now accountability. Where there had been judgment, there was now awareness. The room no longer belonged to whispers and stares, it belonged to dignity. People began to look away, not out of boredom, but out of reflection. The employee's confidence faded. The atmosphere changed, not loudly, but completely. In that moment, Tom Cruise wasn't a movie star. He wasn't an action hero. He wasn't a legend of Hollywood. He was simply someone who chose to stand up calmly, respectfully, and without hesitation, and sometimes that kind of strength speaks louder than any raised voice ever could. The store manager arrived quickly after sensing the tension. It didn't take long to understand that something had gone wrong. The silence, the uneasy faces, the way the energy in the room had shifted. All of it told a clear story. Within moments, the mood changed. Apologies followed. They were careful, measured, respectful. Explanations were offered, though no explanation could fully erase what had already happened. Still, the tone of the room transformed almost instantly. Where there had been suspicion, there was now regret. Where there had been judgment, there was now awareness. But something important had already happened. Ana de Armas wasn't just offended. She was validated. That difference mattered. Tom Cruise didn't step in to speak over her or take control of the situation. He didn't turn it into a spectacle or a power display. Instead, he did something far more meaningful. He stood with her. By staying beside Ana rather than in front of her, Tom made it clear that her voice mattered most. His role wasn't to rescue her, it was to support her. And in that quiet choice, he gave her space to speak for herself. Ana finally spoke. Her voice was calm, composed, honest. She didn't raise her tone. She didn't accuse or exaggerate. She simply explained how the moment had made her feel, not as a celebrity, not as a public figure, but as a human being standing in a public place, unexpectedly judged. Her words weren't dramatic. They were real. She spoke about how quickly dignity can be taken away, how small moments can leave lasting impressions, and how respect should never depend on assumptions. There was strength in her calmness, a strength that made people listen. The room was quiet again. But this time, the silence was different. People weren't staring. They weren't whispering. They were reflecting. Those listening realized something powerful in that moment. Fame doesn't protect you from disrespect. Money doesn't shield you from judgment. Status doesn't guarantee kindness. Respect is a choice, and so is empathy. As Ana finished speaking, something shifted, not just in the store, but in the people standing there. Shoulders relaxed, faces softened. Some looked away, not out of embarrassment, but understanding. By the time Ana and Tom turned to leave, the atmosphere had completely changed. There was no tension left in the air, no whispers, no stares, just quiet acknowledgement. Heads were lowered, not in shame, but in humility. Lessons had been learned, and something that had been briefly lost was restored. Respect. Ana and Tom walked out together side by side, not rushed, not dramatic, just two people leaving a moment behind. A moment that began with discomfort, but ended with dignity. And for everyone who witnessed it, the message was clear. True respect isn't loud. True support doesn't dominate, and true character is revealed in how we treat people when they least expect it. This wasn't about celebrity drama. There were no flashing cameras capturing the moment, no headlines being written in real time, no social media posts going viral within seconds. What happened didn't fit the usual pattern of Hollywood controversy, and that's exactly why it mattered. This was about character. Tom Cruise didn't step in because an audience was watching. He didn't do it for attention, praise, or public approval. In fact, most people in that store didn't even realize who he was at first. He defended Ana because it was the right thing to do. Simple as that. There was no performance in his actions. Only principle. And Ana de Armas didn't react with anger, entitlement, or ego. She didn't demand special treatment or remind anyone of her status. Instead, she responded with something far more powerful. Grace. Strength. She chose dignity over confrontation, self-respect over noise. In a moment where many would have reacted emotionally, Ana stayed grounded, and that calm strength spoke volumes. In a world obsessed with loud reactions, instant outrage, and viral moments, this quiet act of solidarity stood apart. It didn't need dramatic gestures or sharp words to make its point. It didn't need to trend online to be meaningful. It spoke louder than any headline ever could. For Ana, the moment served as a reminder, not just to others, but to herself, that dignity doesn't come from fame, awards, or public admiration. It comes from self-worth, from knowing who you are, even when someone else tries to reduce you to a stereotype or a judgment. For Tom, the moment revealed something deeper than his action hero image. Beyond the stunts, the blockbusters, and the global fame, it showed a man guided by respect, loyalty, and emotional awareness. A man who understands that strength isn't always loud, and leadership doesn't always stand in front. Sometimes, it stands beside. And for everyone who heard the story later, whether through whispers, retellings, or reflections, it carried a powerful message. You don't need to shout to stand up for someone. You don't need to dominate a room to make a difference. And you don't need fame to deserve respect. Kindness isn't weakness. Calm isn't silence. And dignity isn't something anyone can take from you unless you give it away. Some of the strongest moments in life don't happen under bright lights or public applause. They happen quietly in ordinary places when no one expects them. Because real character is revealed, not when everyone is watching, not when recognition is guaranteed, but when no one expects it at all.